the music marathon a few weeks ago. Like a ridiculous hour. But it is good to see you. You're looking fit. And you see all this mail on these turntables here, all around here. This is all for you, okay?
Dear.
So all for you. And I will be giving, and we'll be dealing with a few of these questions. Some of the more embarrassing ones live, okay? I'll be dealing with the questions that the listeners obviously want to put to you after another from Emma Sharp in the features. This is from our session tonight. This is called Ludo in the Summer House. But she wants to know where my program rates in the radio and schedule. Now, that would be telling, wouldn't it? Thank you anyway for your interest, Melanie. But I'll ask, first of all, you, Midge, because she starts off, and some of these questions I'm going to put to you have been asked 10 times over in other letters in other ways. And it's a very popular question was, is your real name James Ure? Is this true? Can you answer this?
This is in actual fact quite true, Melanie.
And the name Midge is Jim's backwards. Is that how you got the nickname?
Well, it is, but I don't think that's why I got it. I think it was something to do with my height. When I joined the band who later became Slick, I was christened that. I was only 17 or 18 at the time, so I couldn't argue against it. Everyone else was bigger than me. They would beat me up, you know.
That's another call. I was going to come to this a little bit later because there's quite a few letters from people who want to know your exact... Why? Maybe you've got some Christmas presents coming, but they want to know your exact height, and somebody wants to know if you stand on a box with pictures of the rest of Ultravox. I mean, he's not that short. I mean, how high are you? I mean, I'm talking about your dimensions.
Right,
here.
okay, right. I think I'm about 5'7". 5'7", no less than that anyway.
Okay.
And no, I don't stand in a box, I stand in warm. And that makes me about the same height as Billy, you know.
Now, everybody last saw you in a big way on television in the Rock and Pop Awards, and you did that funny bit from Sydney when you were walking in front of the bridge, which looks very much like the Newcastle Bridge. That was a pretty major tour. I mean, you were away for a very long time.
Yeah, we were. That was only part of it as well, the Australian-Japan thing. The tour actually started in Britain in September last year, with 3 weeks off over Christmas, and then went off, after doing Europe and all that, we went off and did the Australian and Japan thing. We missed out America because we thought it would kill us, probably. You know? I mean, I know why Joe Strummer's disappeared, because he's done the same.
I was going to say, I mean, last week he was talking about his schedule, I mean, around the world, exactly, playing these exotic places. I mean, were they as exotic as we might think?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. They're stunning, yeah. I mean, it's quite a place to go to. Australia I was really surprised about because I didn't expect anything. I mean, we keep getting this terrible image of the beer swilling, fat, you know, bozos, you know, and it's nothing like that. Well, I'm sure there's some of them somewhere, but, you know, I didn't see any. It's a fabulous place. It's like, if you can imagine, you know, Scunthorpe set in a tropical paradise, that's what it's like.
Now, you were away... I was the one that was away when Yellow Pearl was picked up as the top of the Pops theme. Was that a big surprise for you?
It certainly was, because the song was... it had already been released as a single from Philip's solo album, and it didn't really do anything. And then out of the blue, after the record, we thought the record was dead and gone and never see it again. Out of the blue, Top of the Pops came to us and said they really liked the music and they wanted a special remix. And I went into the studio and did it for them.
I mean, when you do gigs with Ultravox, do you stick to Ultravox tracks, or do you do things like Yellow Pearl that people may want to see you perform, things that they know you of?
No. Ultravox is my main thing, obviously. And when I work with Ultravox, I do nothing but Ultravox.
I see. You brought something solo in, which is a scoop, which we're going to play a little bit later.
Certainly is.
All right, we'll come to that in a second. Jane Hall wants to know how you felt when you were asked to fill in for Gary Moore on Thin Lizzy's US tour. Now, how did that happen?
Well, I'd already known Philip for a year or so, just mutual liking. And I'd done a bit of work with him at his home, co-written a song for one of the albums. And through that he knew that I could actually play guitar fairly well. And when Gary Moore left in the American tour, I got a call from Philip. He was in Arkansas or somewhere, and I got a call at home, this bizarre phone call saying, you know, can you jump in Concorde tomorrow and come out and stand in? And I'd never been to America. I'd never been outside, you know, Britain really, you know.
And did you know Thin Lizzy songs?
No, I knew of them. I didn't know how to play them or anything. So I stuck all the songs on a cassette. He gave me a list of the songs they were playing. Stuck all the songs on a cassette. I sat in Concorde with the headphones on, so, you know, sipping Dom Perignon, you know. It was fabulous. It was like you know, Judy Garland waiting in the wings while the leading lady breaks her leg and she takes over, you know. And it was like going to America for the first time and learning these songs. I got there that night and was on stage playing with them for 45 minutes.
Tremendous. I want to go back. I mean, we don't want to go too far back because you have done so much in a very short space of time. But I was in Dumfries in Glasgow a couple of weekends ago, and somebody that was driving me from Glasgow to Dumfries was telling me how active you were and how known you were in Glasgow before you actually made the charts. What were you doing? I mean, how did you actually start? What were you doing in Glasgow to kind of get yourself into the position where you had hits with Slick, firstly?
Right. Well, Slick, as I said earlier, the main band that was in Glasgow was a band called Salvation, and that was 71, 72, when I was just a boy, when I still had my youthful looks, and it was a funny situation up there. You could be enormous in Scotland and do all the Scottish circuit, but as soon as you came into England, nobody knew you. I mean, we'd never recorded a record or anything. It was just doing clubs and dance halls that had built up this reputation.
This fellow was telling me that. He said you were a well-known name in Glasgow at that time. Yeah.
That's right, and the whole of Scotland. But we found it impossible getting a recording deal up in Glasgow because it was a very different situation from what it is today, where there's a lot of talent coming from Glasgow and there's a lot of small labels and studios. There was no studios in Glasgow at the time. I'd never been in a studio till I was 21, which is horrific, you know. Terrible.
Well, you've made up for it by now.
Certainly have.
And so you got off the ground with Slick by meeting up with Bill Martin and Phil Coulter.
That's right. That was the record deal we were offered, and we took it.
It's good. Jane wants to know how you enjoyed or how you feel about past times with Slick, and she mentions the Rich Kids as well.
There's good and bad about everything I've done. The good things about Slick, it was the end of an era. It was the end of the teeny bop screaming, idolisation that was going on at the time. And I mean, I feel quite lucky to have been part of that. I mean, nobody gets 3,000-4,000 screaming girls at a concert anymore. And I remember that. I've been through that, and it's great. But on the other hand, I wasn't too happy about the songs we were recording, the situation we ended up in. All these things always turn sour somewhere.
I always liked Requiem as one of your songs.
Requiem was a real good song. I really liked it. It was when it got to things like The Kids Are Punk, I thought that was awful. I couldn't handle that.
If we had time, I was actually going to play a snatch of Requiem tonight, but I can see that we're going to be having a lot to talk about. But what I will play next is a song that was a record of the week of mine when it first came out, and I still like it as much today as I did then, sounding really sycophantic. But it's the Rich Kids who followed pretty well hot on the heels of Slick, didn't they?
That's right. It was when Slick had finally broken up, I got a phone call from Glenn Matlock, who'd just left the Pistols 6 months earlier, and he had picked up Steve New and Rusty Egan and was wanting to form the band The Rich Kids.
Now, why? That was always interesting to me that he would have phoned you, because your image was very much as a teeny bop person. I mean, why, somebody as rough as a former Sex Pistol would call on you, for example?
Well, it's all down to images. I mean, like, people seeing me for what I was at the time. I mean, I just looked like, a Bay City roller or something that could be shoved away in a corner, an instant hit and then gone. And Glenn was seen as like this hard punk, and he's not. Glenn's a nice guy, and he's got a funny sense of humour as well. So he asked me to join the band, which I thought was pretty funny.
The sense of humour.
Yeah, right. Bizarre combination, and it worked for a bit until the whole thing backfired on us.
Why do you think it backfired?
There was too much made of the fact that the two of us were getting together in the one band.
Too much hype, you think?
There was a lot of hype going on around about it, and we just couldn't live up to it. I mean, we were built up to be the biggest thing since the Beatles, which was just ridiculous.
Well, the single that you left behind, which I think is one of my top 20 favourites, is Ghosts of Princes in Towers. Is it one that you can listen to without embarrassment or anything?
Yeah, there's some things I can listen to. There's certain points I can pick out about it now, just listen with different ears, because it all happened 3-4 years ago.
Was this ever a hit, this record?
No, it wasn't. No, it got a few plays. I mean, as you say, it was your record of the week, but it just never happened, as did most of the Rich Kids stuff.
It's odd, listening to it even now, I think of it as a hit. Anyway, the Rich Kids, Midge here is my guest. We'll be back on the other side of this. Much of Glenn Matlock these days?
I saw him not so long ago. I saw him just before we went off to Australia. It was January or February, I think it was. I know for a fact he's got a band together with Steve, whatever his name is, who used to be the singer in Original Mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been out working in Europe, but I haven't heard anything of what they've been doing, but I'm sure it'll be good.
What about former members of Slick?
Kenny Hislop, I mean, who was the drummer in Slick, was a real close friend of mine. He's just recently left Simple Minds. He's been working with them quite a lot.
That's right.
I think the last thing he did was the single, Miracles.
Yeah. Terrific. Are you always pleased when you see a band from Glasgow doing well?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, I'm Scottish at heart. I mean, it'll always be there, you know. And it's great to see it. I mean, altered images and things. It's great.
Yeah. Do you go to Glasgow very often? Is it?
Yeah, when I can, I go back up, 2 or 3 times a year. Always at Christmas and New Year. Got to.
Now, these are very random questions, and they come from anywhere and everywhere. I'll just finish with another question that Jane Hall asked, and that was how you became involved with Visage. And tons more questions. Why have you left Visage?
Oh. I became involved with Visage. Well, it's not really an involvement. I mean, we actually started it, Rusty and I, through some solo recordings I'd done after the Rich Kids had broken up. I had some studio time left over from the Rich Kids, and I did a few recordings with Rusty, and he introduced me to Steve. I'd seen at the clubs that he'd started running Billy's.
Steve Strange.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be a singer, so I brought him in to do some vocal things, because not all the things I was doing in the studio particularly wanted to sing. And the ideas just went fast and furious from there. They started flowing, as Rusty's ideas tend to. And I stopped him at one of them and said, great, let's get Billy Currie from Ultravox to play, and let's get Dave Formula, and let's get Barry Adamson, and form a project, a studio project, and just record songs. We'll write the songs and I'll record them and whatever, and it'll be great. And it was very successful.
Certainly.
A great time.
Now, have you left the band?
I'm not involved with them anymore. Just disagreements on how the thing should be going. It's one of these things that I've done a lot of studio work in the last 2 years, and I find it more interesting doing other things now, not just Visage and not just studio work. I'm into directing videos and things for other people.
I know.
Which I find interesting.
Now, I mean, how do you manage to do all this? I mean, you're in Bangkok one day and you're making a video with Bananarama the next, and you're recording solo stuff. I mean, why? I mean, do you have a general philosophy of life? Maybe you can enlighten and educate everybody. How do you get all this stuff done?
I just do it. I mean, I've had no experience in making videos at all, besides being in them. Being in the early Ultravox ones. And after I'd seen a couple of the Visage ones, I thought, well, yeah, I can do that. And I just convinced people that I could do it, although I'd never done it before.
Do you ever get turned down? I mean, we obviously don't hear about the times that people say no to an artist who wants to do something, because you seem to have your own way. Everything you want to do, you go ahead and you do, and it's mostly successful. But, I mean, have you done a lot of things where people have said, no, I don't really like it?
Yeah, a lot in the beginning. I've now got a bit of a track record so that I can actually walk in and say to someone, look, I've done this and I've done that, so the next step is to do this. Now, if you let me do it, great. And I get my own way sometimes, most of the times, because I can shout a wee bit. I can get a bit obnoxious at times.
Right. Gene Fielding writes from Lownsley Green, Chesterfield in Derbyshire, and specifically wants to know what Astrodyne means on the Vienna LP.
Astrodyne. It's actually a made-up word, as Ultravox is. It doesn't really mean much. I mean, if you want to get down to the basic, Astra meaning sky, stars, and dyne meaning a mode of power, like dynamo, And they're two powerful sounding words that Warren put together. We actually wanted to call the track Ad Astra, but as just when we thought of the title, we saw loads of things with Ad Astra on it, which is part of the RAF emblem.
All right. Jane also says there was a different style and sound between the Vienna and the Rage in Eden LPs. Are you planning to make your next LP very different from Rage in Eden, the way that Vienna was different from Rage in Eden?
Yeah, that's simply because we don't want to stand still and sort of recreate what we've done in the past. That's why everyone said, well, why wasn't there a Vienna on Rage in Eden? And our answer was, well, there's a Rage in Eden and Rage in Eden. And Vienna was done, 2.5 years ago, or written nearly 3 years ago. So to us it was very old. And we recorded in a totally different way with Rage in Eden. We spent 3 months writing an entire album in a studio, which we found very hard, very difficult, but we set ourselves a task and we think we pulled it off. The next album, we are planning on doing very different again. We probably won't work with our co-producer Connie Plank.
This is another question that comes up lots and lots I was going to put to you. Why, when you're producing other people and all that, have you worked in the past with Connie Plank, and why won't you be working with him?
Well, Connie Plank, I think it's a bad move producing your own band, because a band is made up of however many individuals with strong opinions, and for one person to take control and produce an album for them or a record for them, I think the band could easily go off the tracks. or the other three would feel left out. You know, any one of us could take control and produce an album, but I don't think it would sound like Ultravox. So we like having a referee, as it were, to say, right, stop, I think what you've done now is great, or this is what you should do, you should carry it off in this direction, and just guide us a bit, you know. We don't need much help, but we need someone there just when it gets a bit tense.
So what's going to happen now?
Well, we're toying with the ideas of a few producers. We haven't made any decisions yet. But whoever it is has got to be exceptional, to say the least, because Connie was very, very good. But we just feel that now is a time to make a radical change in the sound. I mean, it's just, we don't want to record in Germany, and Ultravox have done 3 albums with Connie Plank already, and it's too easy to get set in your ways.
Okay, finally, a question that normally comes at the end of chats, but we're not near the end of this chat. Will Ultravox be touring the UK this year, says Gene, or asks Gene Fielding?
Certainly will, as long as we can record an album first, you know. We're talking about going out on the roads sort of October-ish. So it'll be before Christmas for definite.
Good, okay. Back to Midge after this. From our session for Maximum Joy, this is called In the Air. Joy, and that was In the Air. And while that was playing, Midge was saying what a good sound he thought that was. Think you'd do a good job in our studio session as well?
What, you mean actually being produced or producing someone else?
No, actually actually producing and performing, I think, is what we're after. Yes, an Ultravox session is what we're after, I think, basically. I mean, 8 or 9 hours, is that enough time to record something?
Well, I'm sure we could get a couple of drums in it in that time. I mean, we're so unbelievably meticulous, it's ridiculous, you know. I mean, Warren alone can take 2 days putting a drum track down, you know, to get it exactly the way he wants it. Because he sort of speaks like that, you know, when he wants it just perfect. We're so meticulous, you know. 9 hours, I'm sure we could get something down.
What about an album then? How long does it take you to record an album?
Well, Raging Eden, as I said, took 3 months, which is quite a long time.
But, I mean, don't you, if you're spending a long time, maybe get bored by a song that you're working on so much? Doesn't it become a little bit tedious?
Not so much in that case. It was quite exciting. The whole idea of doing Raging Eden the way we did it was that we wanted to write most of it in the studio. So we'd go in with a very, very rough idea of what we wanted and construct it. I mean, people keep talking about writing songs, but I don't know anybody who actually sits with puts pen to paper and writes dots and all that anymore. I mean, they do it with tape recorders and machines and just remembering riffs and things.
Is that how Vienna came together?
Yeah, we constructed it. It's all constructed. Nothing was written. The only thing that was written were the lyrics.
Now, it says, now you revealed a lot of yourself when you did My Top 12 a couple of months ago. I remember listening as I was parked while the rest of the family were doing the shopping, and I was listening to this and I was amazed because I thought it was very courageous of you. You revealed yourself as being a fan of Frank Sinatra's, Kayu Sakamoto, and all sorts of things from the 60s that were didn't have much of an edge to them, but yet were quite sentimental. And that obviously is something to do with Vienna, I think, the tone of Vienna.
There's a lot of things a lot of the things that I like from like childhood. I mean, it's happy memories. You don't really think too much of the record. You associate what you were doing at the time, you know. And I think it was a fairly easy childhood, and all those songs sort of mean something. They all seem to have an atmosphere about them.
Well, those songs had a lasting quality, certainly for you. Do you think much of today's music has a lasting quality?
Oh yeah, I think it has. I think all music's for, you know, hundreds of years has, you know. I think it always will have. It's not all instantly disposable. There always has been instantly disposable stuff. There's always been the odd few that really stick out, and that's why you have, you know, number ones, you know. Masses of people really like a particular record and make it number one, and that sticks out.
All right, I'm going to play Vienna now as our second of 3 of the best and dedicate it to Ian Sollers, who writes from Vicarage Lane, Staines in Middlesex, who actually wrote to you, Midge. I'm reading your letter, and he's done the history of Ultravox, a very detailed synopsis and analysis of the band from beginnings to today, and he's done this project as part of his A-level communication studies. So thank you for this information. I'll pass it on to Midge, and I'll pass all the rest of your letters on to Midge. Midge will be with us for the next little while. I'll try to get through a few more questions. I'll just acknowledge Paula of Kensington, Bath, Avon, also Paul Rogers of Ainsford, Kent. I think that's how you pronounce it. Let's see, a few more people asked for 3 of the best. Samantha Hughes, this is for you as well. Ultravox, Vienna. Now there's a song that clearly has lasting quality. That's Vienna. Can you still listen to that without thinking, God, I wish this was over soon? I mean, is it a song that you yourself, even though you were involved in the performance and the composition, do you have a tendency, when you play it, say, to kind of want to rush through it?
No, not at all. No, when we play it, it's like a moment to sort of cherish when you're actually up playing it, because there's a special atmosphere about that song that can be created live. Even listening to it on record, I mean, I don't go home and play it every night, you know. I haven't heard it since it was in the charts, really. But there's, I mean, just listening to it just now, there's still bits in there that I can sit and go, God, did we play that? You know, I mean, like the cello, like the viola parts that Billy plays. I mean, they sound really nice.
Are you aware of anybody covering the song yet? Because it's a song that you would think, like in years to come, you'll have cover versions of it in different styles.
Well, talking about Frank Sinatra, I mean, I wanted Frank Sinatra to cover it, but you know, I don't think he will. Really? I mean, can you imagine Frank singing that?
You never know.
Wonderful.
All you have to do is send it to Bill Martin, your friend Bill Martin. He'll get it to Frank Sinatra, I'm sure. Let's get down to some specific questions now. When is Ultravox going to release a new single? Asks a whole bunch of people. Raz, Debbie, Michelle, Ashley, Vicky, Mandy, Sasha of Carl Shelton in Surrey.
Well, as soon as we've got something that we really feel is fit for public ears, there's nothing else we want to take from Raging Eden that we feel particularly strong about. We don't like the production line thing with, you know, another single every 2 months or whatever it is. So we're having a bit of a gap. We seem to have been getting a bit overexposed in the last few months, so we're keeping a low profile until we've come up with something new. Okay,
Fiona Wood's going to put you in the hot seat. She writes from Auckland Road, London, and she has 5 questions, which I'll put to you. First one is, does Midge feel that Ultravox are now Midge your plus backing band, as he seems to have used the band as a springboard for his own ambitions?
Dear me. Well, no, not at all. I mean, Ultravox is Ultravox. That's the whole idea. I mean, I'd no more think of using Ultravox for, you know, bettering my own solo projects than try and fly to the moon. I mean, in fact, the solo projects happened before I joined Ultravox. If you think back, the Visage stuff, I was producing other people's records before that. And I had a bit of a name on my own before joining Ultravox. No, I mean, I can see how you might think that, but I think that's more down to media. It's easier to sell a magazine with Midge Yours face on it than it is anybody else's face, because my face gets seen all the time in television, and simply because I'm the singer, not because I'm Midge Yours. Okay, Fiona also wants to know if you prefer red or green apples. She's either going to throw them or give you them, I prefer. Do you? Well, if she's going to throw them, throw green ones. If you're going to give me them, give me red ones.
What flavour yogurt do you like?
I don't like yogurt. I don't drink milk. I hate it.
All right, we've covered the new single. And has Midge ever met John Fox?
No, I haven't. No, but people keep telling me I have, but I certainly haven't. I expect to have an orange box or something to stand on when I do meet him, because I hear he's quite tall.
All right, Helen Mell writes from Stockwood in Bristol, and out of her questions I've chosen, have Midge and Chris started filming the movie they were planning, which is set in Glasgow? This is yet one more dimension. Is this true? You're doing a movie?
Yeah, we've got we're aspiring movie directors. We've got ambitions, high ambitions. It's that thing about I was saying earlier. If you want to do something, go ahead and do it. I mean, it sounds so outrageous. Some idiot who's never done anything saying, right, I'm going to do a movie. But I feel I can do it. We're still working on the script. We couldn't get the book that we wanted to base it on, so we're writing a script that isn't a million miles away from it. It's still happening in Glasgow, and it's based in the 1920s, the Glasgow gangs. And we will do eventually, but it just takes a long, long time when you're actually getting it all together yourself.
Sounds tremendous. There was some good, well, the 2 main movies, of course, out of Glasgow recently are Gregory's Girl, and the one that I really, really liked, which was when I first came back from Atlanta, Georgia to this country, the first thing I turned on the television and saw in its entirety was this movie called That Sinking Feeling.
It was the same guy, it was the same director, yeah, and it was the same boy as was in Gregory's Girl, same cast.
What's interesting is that Gregory's Girl in America has subtitles.
Of course, yeah. Well, you know, if everybody sort of spoke like that, Jim, you know, you wouldn't know what you're saying, you know. it's you know, but I mean, I can understand everything they're saying really clearly, because they do speak quite slow, and it's for an English or American speaking audience, not really for a Scottish audience. But having subtitles, I mean, they wanted to put subtitles in Brideshead Revisited. I mean, my God, America.
Exactly. Now, but That Sinking Feeling, what a marvellous... I can't enthuse enough about that.
It's such a ridiculous idea. It was fabulous.
It was about these guys, if you didn't see the film, this gang of lads who decided that they were on the dole and they wanted to make some money. They found out that, I think, stainless steel sinks fetched some money or something, and raiding this warehouse of stainless steel sinks, and the actual how they planned it and what have you. It was very, very fun. If you ever get the chance to see it, I promise you'll enjoy it. Right, Bananarama with the Fun Boy 3 next, and the reason I'm playing Really Saying Something is that for those of you that have seen the video on Top of the Pops for this song, you may well be interested in it. You may already know that Midge produced that. Now, how did that happen? Where did you get the ideas for that?
Well, Chris and I have done a few things, right? We did Yellow Pearl for Phil Lynott, and we did a couple of Visage things, and near the end of the last Ultravox things, we were taking almost total control in the direction of the videos as well. The Bananarama thing just came along our way and asked if we were interested. We thought it was great because we thought the girls looked fabulous, you know. Just thought it would be a bit of a laugh doing it. And we just put all the ideas together, wanted it something really light and bubbly and fun, all sort of pink and blue and you know, people nipping a bum and things. It was just great, you know. So we just went to town and lived our fantasies.
Well, the thing is, I mean, obviously videos help to sell singles these days, and this was another success for you because this single is currently really charging up the charts. Bananarama, really saying so.